This is a really interesting team. The Atlanta Falcons, last year, they go 7-10 with the quarterbacks like Desmond Ridder, Taylor Heineke. I think someone else started for them at some point. They have a lot of drama around Bijan Robinson and his usage. This year, they add Kirk Cousins. They pay him a ton of money, but then they also draft Michael Penix. They make some other big additions. On the defense, they get Matthew Judon. They just signed Justin Simmons. And now their projected win total is 9.5. And folks would assume that this is good enough to win the NFC South. So, which way are you leaning for the Atlanta Falcons?
I'm gonna go over here, Khaled. I think with the additions you made right here on the defensive side, adding Kirk Cousins. Now, yes, coming off an injury, but for a guy like Cousins, I think the Achilles is not going to be as big of an issue as it would be for someone who's a little more mobile. So I think we'll see Kirk Cousins right back to where he left off in Minnesota. He'll turn these guys like Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and they got Bijan Robinson. So pretty good offensive group of guys and a good defensive group of guys. I think that's good enough to get him there to 10 wins here. So that's where I see him at. Like if this was 10.5, like you said, for the Cowboys, I'd be like, okay, under for sure. 9.5, I think Falcons win the division here and they hit 10 wins.
I'm going to go under for this. I think they're going to be in that 8-9 win range. Achilles is a big deal, man. And the fact that it was late in the season, I know we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and the AFC, so I might have a different opinion on that one. But that was week 1. Kirk Cousins was a little bit later in the season. He was never that explosive to begin with, and now he's going to be even slower. Add to that some of the drama with Michael Penix, and if Kirk does have one of those, because I mean he's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong, but he does have those 3 interception, 4 interception games in him. As soon as that happens, people are going to be saying, "Hey, that Penix kid looked pretty good in the preseason." I don't like the fact that they passed up Bill Belichick. Raheem Morris, sure, he's a decent coach, but I just don't. There's a smell on this team that I'm not digging. Maybe I'm just being biased because I'm going for the Saints in this division. There is a ton of talent. Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts. Is he still a talent? I don't know. Maybe people haven't given up on him yet. I've given up on him. But the defensive additions make them interesting. But I think 10 wins is probably too much. I'm going to go with 9 because I think the division as a whole is going to get a little bit more competitive. I don't think Carolina is going to be as bad as they were, whereas basically a free 2 wins there. So I'm going to go with the under on Atlanta. I think that's the first one we disagreed on, so that's good to see. All right. The Green Bay Packers. This is another really hot team. They started off slow last year, ended up going 9-8, got into the wild card, went into Dallas, smacked up the Cowboys, went into San Francisco, went toe-to-toe with the NFC champs, and probably should have won that game. But anyway, their projected win total, 9.5. They make some addition. They lose Aaron Jones. They add Josh Jacobs. I don't think any really notable moves on defense, but I think it's more of the same, which is a good thing. They were just good enough on defense. They have coaching stability. They gave Jordan Love a ton of money, and he looked like an elite quarterback at the end of the season, not so much at the beginning. So I guess it probably depends on which Jordan Love you think shows up. But what did you have for the Packers here?
Yeah, I think they go over here. They showed a lot in that second half of the season, and I think they kind of continue that, even though they just barely missed beating out the Niners in that game. If Jordan Love doesn't throw that, what was that interception at the end of the game, they might even take that game from the Niners. So yeah, Jordan Love, I think it all kind of rests here with Jordan Love. So I think if we get that Jordan Love from the second half, the guy we saw in the playoffs, I think they're good enough to hit 10 wins, maybe 11, maybe even challenge the Lions here for the NFC North crown. I think that's the real only challenge here to the Lions in the NFC. So I think that Packers are a team to watch, and Jordan Love is a guy to watch and see. Right? Is that the Jordan Love we're getting? If they're not getting that Jordan Love, they're gonna hit the under. But I think we are gonna get that progress out of Jordan Love, and he's gonna light the NFL up again. So
I think something clicked for him. Yeah, because early on he was not doing well. I mean, I saw him Monday night against the Raiders. He was terrible, through a game-ending interception. but something happened with him and those young weapons. That was the big story, was he has all these receivers. He doesn't have a clear number one receiver, which is a bad thing, but it's also a good thing because all these guys are kind of interchangeable. And now we've gone from the conversation of what weapons does he have to all of a sudden, wow, he has a ton of weapons. He's got, Josh Jacobs, as we mentioned. He's got Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, if he can figure out this hamstring thing, which supposedly he has. So all of a sudden it goes from who's he going to throw to is there enough, snaps and enough touches for all these guys? And all of a sudden you're looking at, this might be an elite offense. And I mean, on the fantasy side, I'm not bringing up fantasy a lot today, but I feel like this guy, I mean, he's a guy that I've circled in all my fantasy drafts as a potential, Aaron Rodgers type guy where he's going to throw 40 touchdowns and 4,500 yards. I mean, I know the weather's not great there, but he does have a lot of games in a dome and on the road, obviously. So I'm going with the over as well. I do think the NFC North is going to be really fascinating between them and Detroit. And I might even give the edge to Green Bay, but I haven't looked at that too closely. But yeah, I think we're both going the over here as well. All right. The Chicago Bears. This is a fun one. They went 7-10 last year with Justin Fields. They end up getting the number one overall pick thanks to the Carolina Panthers. They make a big addition with Caleb Williams, who is maybe the next Patrick Mahomes. I don't know. But a generational type quarterback. There's people saying already he's the most talented quarterback in Bears history. Hasn't even taken an NFL snap yet as of August 29th. They bring in Keenan Allen. They bring in DeAndre Swift. They pay DJ Moore a ton of money. This is a very deep and talented offense if Caleb Williams is who we think he is. The defense was not great in the beginning of the season, but came around strong at the end of the season. And now their win total is 8.5. Where are you going on the Bears here?
I'm taking the under here on the Bears. Caleb Williams, yes, talented quarterback, but let's keep in mind he's still a rookie quarterback, right? It's he's gonna struggle. He's gonna have some struggles. He's gonna have to figure some of this stuff out as he goes along. And sometimes you saw it in the preseason where maybe he's trying a little too hard to make stuff happen on his own. And I think that's gonna help kind of bite him in the regular season, right? So he's gonna have some growing pains. So I think just for that reason alone, I think the under makes sense here. Like if Caleb has minimal growing pains, maybe they're staring at 9 wins, but I think it's all more than likely that they're right there in that 7 and 8 win range. And you'd really have to have like a really good clean season for Caleb Williams, like no mistakes, like no like he'd have to play like one of the best rookie seasons of all time for them to even, I think, get to 9 wins. So for that reason, I'm taking the under here. I'm not sold on their defense. That's really
fair.
the concern to me. Yeah.
I think their defense. I think their defense turned around when they added Montez Sweat and they finally got that pass rush. They have like an all-pro shutdown corner and Jalen Johnson. They have Tremaine Edmonds, I believe, is their starting middle linebacker. So the defense, I think, is legit. The offense, I'm with you. I'm concerned. This pains me because I do really believe in this guy and I want to believe in him. And I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy if they go, 9-8 or 10-7, end up in the wild card. I don't think they're going to win the division. I think if the division was a little softer, I would go with the over, but I'm going to go the under as well. Just right around that, 8 wins. But again, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be happy to be wrong because I really like this guy and I'm really rooting for him to succeed. But I do think, like you said, he does have a tendency to try to do too much at times. We saw it a little bit in the preseason where he's trying to do a lot of that same magic he was doing in USC, which he can get away with. He's a great athlete, but I think at some point he's going to get popped and he's going to learn a hard lesson, I think. So barely under. I'm not super convinced. It's just, I think it's kind of the law of averages, right? Like Chicago or Detroit is going to be really good. Green Bay, I think, is going to be really good. Minnesota is not, I don't think. But yeah, it's going to be tough to squeeze out 9-10 wins. But again, I mean, they play the Niners. They have a tough schedule, so I'm not super convinced, but I'm going to go with the under here. All right, next up, the Los Angeles Rams. They were a wild card team last year, went 10-7. They went into Detroit, lost a very close game. They had a really good chance to win that game. I think they had a potential game-winning drive. No, sorry, that was Detroit that had not a potential game-winning drive, but basically they sealed it with a 4-minute drive at the end of the game. But it was a close game. And I think the Rams, they lose Aaron Donald. They bring back Cooper Kupp, who came on strong last year. There's some issues around Puka Nakua's health, but I think this offense is going to keep moving. And their projected win total is actually only 8.5. So is Aaron Donald worth a game and a half? Probably. But where are you going for the Rams here?
I'm actually going under here. I think Aaron Donald was a huge part of that defense, and I don't think they really have enough pieces on that defense to kind of sustain that. And like you said, right? Like you're looking at Puka's health, and you're looking at Cooper Kupp's health. I don't know about the offense either, right? Matt Stafford is like what 40 now almost. So right,
I think he's 34.
I'm not.
He's
Is
only
he that
34.
young? Okay,
Yeah, he's not that
I feel like he's
old.
been in the league for like 15 years, man.
I'm going to look this up because I don't think he's 40
Okay, look
yet.
me up.
He's
Okay.
36.
He's close to 40. Okay,
He's
all right.
36.
That's okay. He's as old as us, Khaled. Okay, cool. Close enough. He's on the wrong side of 35. But I think right. You gotta really have those two guys healthy. Does Kyron Williams regress a little bit? Like, I think there's just too many variables here for the Rams where I'm just not convinced that they could overcome like a loss like Aaron Donald on the defensive side. Like I think they're gonna have to win a lot of shootouts. That's gonna be the problem here for the Rams, and I don't know if they can do that week in and week out. I mean, maybe with Sean McVay as coach, they could do it, but we'll see.
All of that makes sense. I'm still gonna go with the over. I believe in this offense. I think it's going to be really talented. Matt Stafford is still an elite quarterback. He has two of the best receivers in the NFL. I know there's some health concerns, but you're thinking, okay, if Puka needs some time to recover, Cooper Kupp's going to carry the load, and I think he'll be fine. He's only like 31, 32, so he'll be fine. And Puka, of course, is a kid, so I think he'll bounce back just fine. My biggest concern, obviously, is the defense, but I do think they're going to be good enough, and I think we're going to see some regression from Seattle and Arizona. So I think for that reason, I think they're going to be good enough to get to 9-10 wins. So, well, I mean, not even regression from Arizona, but regression from Seattle.